I think Lou Will and Tyreek are kind of like the big ones that everybody's really interested in. But I want to get to Willie Hernangomez and Kyle O'Quinn, who are a couple of Knicks bigs. Both really interesting players. Both of Hernangomez reportedly has asked for a trade. O'Quinn is a guy that the Celtics have, has kind of been on, like, everybody's like, hey, maybe keep an eye on this guy for quite some time. Both very cheap, both like really good contracts. Hernangomez is an interesting player. He's got great touch around the basket. Really good. He's got a nice hook shot. Really good pick and roll player. I think he's a really impressive offensive talent. Big man. I think he would play a center role. He would be able to give them some baskets off the bench. And then there's Kyle O'Quinn, who's just kind of a rugged guy. He's always going to have good, defensive rebounding percentages. He's going to help you on the glass. Maybe he's not so necessary now that they've got Greg Monroe, who is a good rebounder, because O'Quinn's not like necessarily like a great defender by any means. So I think that those two guys are really interesting as well. If you want some center depth, you might not have to give up as much, especially maybe for somebody like O'Quinn if you wanted to shore up.
If you just need kind of that extra body who you're not expecting too much from, but if you need a little bit of toughness or just an extra body out there that can kind of handle himself. I mean, especially if the price is right.
Exactly. Yeah. I would agree with that. So those are those two guys to keep an eye on. I think both Hernangomez and O'Quinn would be interesting, and I think you'll probably hear both of their names come up a little bit as the trade deadline approaches. Got one more kind of bigger name target to talk about here, and I think it's an interesting one. We've heard rumors that Rodney Hood might be on the move, or that the Jazz might be looking to maybe move on from him. Right now, he's got a really good contract, or a really movable contract for the Celtics. You could probably look at him as a bit of a rental. He's not gonna be like in the future plans at all.
Long-term plans or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there's a few things to talk about with Hood. Obviously, he's a shooter. He gets he's a little bit streaky, but he is a good shooter, and I think that he could bring some to the bench. He can create a little bit like attacking closeouts, that kind of thing. He's an interesting player that way. If you were going to get a player like Rodney Hood, where he can shoot a little bit, he could bring something to your bench, would you be concerned at all about the minutes that he might take away as, sort of a guard wing from guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? Is that that sounds like something that might play a role in how the Celtics are thinking about this?
I guess it all depends on how Stevens can kind of formulate the way the roster's planned out. I mean, you look at the situation, the hand they were kind of dealt to start the year. You're concerned of how they were able to kind of balance out and put these guys in big minutes, and they've. I mean, I think it's easy to say both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have thrived.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
I mean, at the least.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how it would play out. I mean, it all depends on whether you think that if you look at a rookie, especially with Tatum, through the course of a whole season, whether you want to kind of reduce his minutes a little bit going into the postseason, and maybe that could be something. But also, I mean, if he's succeeding so well right now, do you want to kind of throw him off a little bit? So. It's kind of an interesting problem to have. That's why, I mean, you look at Rodney Hood, he's an intriguing guy. Is it, the best option? No. If you look at both just in terms of need and, what you're going to get and what kind of problems it possesses, whereas you look at Lou Williams, it's like, all right, go out there. Like, I know it doesn't matter who he's going to be playing with, he's going to, score. So it's kind of interesting kind of, how do you kind of view that situation and how you think it could impact some of these guys who, I mean, we agree it's going to be key to their success is whether, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, how they succeed.
Yeah, so I think Hood is would be an interesting move. He'd be kind of a win now move, and I think that the Celtics should avoid win now moves at any cost. Honestly, I think that even if you sacrifice, I don't think that they're sacrificing like a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals, like by not making a move like that. I think if you make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think that this year is a success, and obviously. I think they can make it to the finals. I think that's very reasonable at this point. Obviously, Cleveland is Celtics team, and I don't think there's
literally half the teams at the top of the Eastern Conference are literally fighting with each other now. It's like DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry get along, so like they're right there with you.
Exactly,
and that's like automatically how it is. So
but those guys have self-destructed in the playoffs before as well. So it's like there's plenty of reason to believe that the Celtics could make it to the finals. But I think you can get to the Eastern Conference Finals without any problem playing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown heavy minutes, and that I think would be crucial. If I can do that. I'm going to avoid, trading anything for a guy like Rodney Hood.
Yeah, you lose your all-star big acquisition in the first game of the season, and you're starting, for pretty much the entire year, a 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. Yeah. And you get to the Eastern Conference Finals with a new point guard, almost an entirely new roster. And, how else do you do that as other than a huge success to just build off of? So in terms of making win-now moves, when you got a core that's that young, I mean, Kyrie's, 25, 26?
Yeah, 25.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, look at a situation like that, I guess, I kind of agree with you, as you said, where, why kind of mess with something that's good, that's going to keep getting better. It's not like Jason Tatum has peaked, thank God.
Exactly.
You have plenty more stuff to work with him, so
Definitely.
why kind of do something and kind of cut into other guys' minutes?
Agreed. All right, so we'll go through a couple of questions here. Let me just look through this here. Michael Damper says, I think this year is prime year to win the championship. We should go all in. Well, we'll see. I don't think that that's kind of how the Celtics are viewing it. I think they're looking at it a little bit differently. But there's, the opportunity is definitely there to go to the finals. Could end up playing probably will end up playing the Warriors, and that's going to be really tough to do. And then we got Michael Galliano. Sorry, man, if I mispronounced that. Do you think we keep Rozier and re-sign him, though it will be more money? He's played really well the last couple of games. Really well the last couple of games. I think it would be a little bit of an overreaction to just automatically be trade smart, build everything around Rozier. But he's played really well.
Yeah,
he's showing some really nice flashes.
When you have a triple-double and you drop 31 in the next game, it's a pretty good debut for a starting guy in position. Agreed.
And then Jovan says, how about Joe Johnson? I think with Joe Johnson, again, it's similar to the Rodney Hood situation where it's like, this guy will get you buckets, but I don't know that you want to take those minutes away from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Those guys have such a bright future. I think you just kind of stay the course with them. So we'll get back to the questions in a little bit here. Want to go through a quick lightning round here, and I can just blast through these guys. If you have anything to add, feel free.
Absolutely.
So lightning rounds. Jeremy Lamb is a guy that I think would be kind of interesting. Charlotte's going to probably be a seller at the deadline. He's got a $7 million deal. Nothing crazy. He can create a little bit. He's not super efficient. I do worry that he would take minutes away from Jaylen and Jason, but I do think Jeremy Lamb's name is somebody to keep an eye on as the deadline approaches. Maybe not for the Celtics, but for somebody, but keep an eye on that. Troy Daniels is a guy that I really like as an option for the Celtics. He's a 40-something% three-point shooter, great shooter, plays for the Suns. Obviously, they could be sellers as well, getting rid of some of their vets. I think that Daniels probably wouldn't cost very much. There's no way he costs more than like a second-round pick and then something else. He's got a very, very minimal contract. So I think he would be an interesting guy as a shooter. I've seen Marco Bellinelli's name tossed around a little bit, and I'm not sure I'm high on that. I mean, he doesn't really play any defense. He can shoot a little bit. I think Troy Daniels is a better shooter. So it's like, if you want a guy who's not going to play any defense and will hit threes, I personally would rather have Troy Daniels than Marco Bellinelli.
It seems like there's plenty of other options out there. Yeah. You don't have to, if they're all going to be around the same price range, there's no need to, sell short or anything like that.
Exactly. Definitely. And then the final guy I think that you should maybe keep an eye on is Magic forward Jonathan Simmons. Interesting player, very versatile, not really much of necessarily of a shooter, but he's super athletic. And he's got, again, that versatility, that length the Celtics really often covet. So I think he would be a really interesting guy as well. Michael says, I think the Warriors, especially with the way they've been playing, can be had. We'll see when the postseason rolls around.
They've let up like 100 points in a couple of games in a row, but also, Curry, Durant.
Also, Curry, Durant, Draymond, Thompson. Like they're really, really tough, and I think the Celtics play them really well. The Celtics do a great job against them, but it's like you're doing a great job against probably the greatest assembly of talent.
Yeah, playoff Warriors is horrifying.
It's a completely different animal, definitely. So the last thing we're going to get to here is a rumor that came out. First off, we'll say Ilyasova from Atlanta, from Brian Conlon. That's an interesting one. He's a shooter. He's a shooter. He's a kind of a power forward. Interesting player there. I don't know that he necessarily fits their profile. Again, kind of that forward situation is tough.
Right.
Could they get both Tyreek and Lou? Not without giving out significant assets and creating some real space. That would be really.
I was gonna say, if you're also concerned about just like finding minutes for guys, those two guys who are both scorers. It seems like it's gonna be kind of a tough balancing act, and I feel like when you trade down where the position the Celtics are in, you're looking for kind of that one piece to kind of just like get you over the top. You're not really trying to throw in like three new guys to kind of mesh it all together, which. Again, Brad Stevens is a good coach. Maybe it could work out. Like if it was like the Cavs and they throw like 10 more dudes into their rotation, it's just going to be mayhem.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Still, it seems like you add guys like that, it could cause some problems.
Agreed. So probably not with Tyreek and Lou. Jovan says, how about LeBron? Cleveland's probably shopping him.
I think probably for Smart.
Smart in a second. No, so LeBron has a no-trade clause. If he asks to be traded somewhere, he could be traded somewhere.
With Kyrie.
Rejoining Kyrie. Man, poor Kyrie. If LeBron just showed up in town, like after he requested a trade, Kyrie thought he had his own thing going, and LeBron's just like, no, I'm here.
Like the ghost of Jacob Miley is haunting him across the Eastern Conference.
All right, so last thing we're going to get to here, and then if there's any follow-up questions, we can get to those at the end as well. But the last thing we want to get to, the Emmanuel-Mudiay Denver Nuggets rumors from earlier today. Pretty interesting stuff. Apparently, they're looking for Smart, and they're dangling at Mudiay. They've dangled Mudiay in trade talks before, so that's nothing super new. The Celtics really want a first-round pick for Marcus Smart, and I don't know. That's going to be tough to get. Smart's a restricted free agent, so teams do kind of control where he goes after this season.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack here, and let's start first with whether Emmanuel-Mudiay would help the Celtics. I am not high on Mudiay's game. I worry about, obviously he's had good games against the Celtics, but I worry that he's not, ever going to necessarily be that scoring kind of guard that the Celtics are looking for right now. Like, they're looking for that offensive punch.
Right.
What do you think about Mudiay? What do you think about, that potential fit?
I mean, yeah, I was kind of going along with what you said. I mean, if you look at what the Celtics need, especially right now, they just need, it seems like the biggest need is just scoring off the bench. And if you have a guy like that who's, obviously a ball-dominant guy, is that going to be a guy that's really going to help you, put you over the edge?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get past, a team in the Eastern Conference, try to make a series out of potentially the Warriors or something like that, is that going to be a guy who's, in terms of the assets you have, in terms of cashing in, is that who you want to, make that trade for? Right. I don't kind of see how that is generally going to benefit you in terms of what you're looking for to get you kind of over that hump. I really don't buy it, especially look at the other options that are out there. It's not like this is a barren trade market. You're like, well, we got to make a move. Like,
there's a lot of sellers.
We'll go with Mudiay.
Yeah,
there's plenty of sellers and guys who fit what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, how many guys would reel off who can score?
Yeah.
I think, it's an interesting trade. I mean, didn't really see, it was obviously kind of a new thing with all this stuff, but
yeah.
I really don't buy it in terms of need versus, what you're going to have to give up for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's ways to maybe make it work. One trade that I saw suggested on Twitter was like making it a three-way deal where, the Celtics get Evans, the Grizzlies get a young player from Denver, and then Denver gets, Smart. And there's ways to maybe make that work. I could see that happening. But as just like a straight-up swap, one, I don't see Denver giving up anything like a first-round pick and Mudiay for Smart. Like, I don't see that happening, although that would be a way to sweeten the pot. But
right.
And then, two, I just honestly think that the Celtics kind of need Marcus Smart. And there's ways to kind of look at it and be like, okay, so, this guy made an immature decision. He got in a fight with a picture frame. Like what are you doing?
Happens to the best of us.
Happens to the best of us. That happened to Connor last night after the Patriots game. It is what it is. But, I think that there's, if you look at, there was a report earlier today that role players are going to really struggle to get more than $8.8 million, right. The mid-level exception. And, if Smart is only going to get the mid-level exception, this year in the offseason, you have to, hang on to him and hope that you can get, this really versatile, valuable guy for $8.8 million. That's nothing. And
right.
the Celtics are already going to be bumping up against a luxury tax. That's going to be a real problem, especially in a couple of years when Jalen and Jason both need contract extensions. This is going to be a very expensive team. If you can get good production at the MLE from Smart, you have to do that.
Right.
And that does run the risk that Smart takes the qualifying offer and potentially pushes this all to the summer of 2019, where there's going to be a lot more space available because all these 2016 contracts start coming up. So I do think that there is risk there. But that being said, I think it's a good risk to take. I think I would ride it out with Smart. I would not trade him at this deadline, even with all the stuff that's kind of happened. Mm-hmm. I think the potential is there for you to keep a very valuable player. If you can do that, I think you do it.
Right, exactly. And a guy who's gonna, if Celtics make a deep run, Marcus Smart's gonna have his fingerprints over a gutsy win at some point during this playoff. So might as well ride it out with him. And again, if you're able to retain him, that's huge for a guy like this, for a team where you're trying to build versatility and defense and just guy who can do a little bit of everything. Again, Marcus Smart might want to make play your hair out every once in a while, but he's still such a valuable guy on this team, especially off that bench.
Absolutely, and think about this for the last thing, on Smart. I think if you think about say it's a Game 5 and the Warriors are up 3-1 and you're in the NBA Finals and it's coming down to it, would you rather have Lou Williams or Marcus Smart? Mm-hmm. I think I personally would rather have Marcus Smart. I want that guy who's going to defend multiple positions, who's going to throw his body, around, mm-hmm. who's going to take charges, who's going to make winning plays. Lou will get you buckets, and we all know that Lou will get you buckets. But if you just look at Marcus Smart as a player, as a guy who, is makes winning plays, I think I would rather have that in the postseason.
Absolutely.
So we got, Brian Conlon says Smart will win us at least one game in the playoffs. I think that's reasonable. And
also
Michael,
give us a heart attack in the same game.
We will win.
There's
going to be a heart attack.